Okay.
That was an awesome conversation.
Yeah, Mr. Juan Ortiz.
Yes.
Never fails. He's awesome. He's a great person. Just not only a pioneer in mariachi education and all that, but he's just a great person to get to know and learn more about. And what really was really fascinating to me when he was telling his story was when he was talking about the beginnings of Mariachi Campanas de America. Mm-hmm. And he was talking about that he had seen my dad's group, Mariachi Chapultepec, perform at the Hemisphere Plaza in the late 60s, and that he had seen that, and that was inspirational to him enough to one day want to create his own group. You remember him saying that? Yeah.
Yes, I do remember.
So that was a nice little tie-in because my dad's group was a big group in the 60s. I don't know how much you know about the San Antonio scene back then.
No, I don't. I'm from another area. I'm from North Texas, and especially moving to Texas State in college, I know and I've seen how different mariachi is in the professional sense, right? And how DFW is, how Austin is, how San Antonio is. And I can honestly say each one kind of has its own little style, its own little flair. But knowing like just your history and this, I've gotten to see manuscripts, right, that your dad wrote, and the style of music and the style of mariachi music that your mom even got to sing. It's a very specific and very creative and beautiful way of mariachi. But to hear that he had that influence from your dad, I can totally see it. And I guess that's what makes San Antonio mariachi. It's different.
Yeah, no, it's very, very unique. So like, let me see here. Let me tell a little bit of the history. This is a whole thing. We'll have to have somebody come in because we can delve into this topic really big time in the history of Mexican culture in San Antonio and all that. But when my dad and my uncles arrived in San Antonio, they first started a group called, they were a trio, Los Osos. And they were doing as a trio. And eventually somebody told them, you guys, why don't you guys start a mariachi? And so that's when they started thinking about putting together a mariachi program. But this is something that's very unique, though. Back then in San Antonio, we're talking the 50s and 60s, there were a lot of mariachi musicians and a lot of trio musicians, all that in the downtown San Antonio, right there in the Mi Tierra. And there was another restaurant across the highway called Mario's. It's not Mario's is not there anymore. The UTSA downtown campus is there now.
Yes.
But Mario's used to be there, and then Mi Tierra. And so that was kind of like a big hub. And, of course, the Teatro Alameda's down there, too. And that was the cornerstone of, like, Mexican-American, cinema, Mexican cinema. They had showed a lot of movies there.
Yes.
They had a lot of shows for the Mexican community and all that. So that was a big hub, that little downtown part. And...
that what you were saying, Alameda, sorry for interrupting.
Yeah, that's okay.
I remember hearing stories of, like, with your mom and you saying that there was, like, a wall, right? That lots of artists would sign their names, like, big artists that came. Like...
Jose Alfredo Jimenez.
Yes.
Miguel Aceves Mejia.
Yes.
All of them, when they would come to San Antonio and perform at Teatro Alameda, there was this big wall in the back, and they all signed their names, saying that they were there, and autographs and all that. But did you hear that, Ms. Quintero's uncle, Pete Moreno, her uncle was telling me that somebody painted over that wall.
Yes. It's so crazy because that is like culture. It's so important. It's like, okay, kind of like, let's go to Los Angeles where they put the hands in in front of, what's that one theater called?
The Chinese theater.
The Chinese theater, and then people put their hands like on the cement, and then they sign it. Imagine if somebody said, "Oh, you know what? Let's just pave it over." Like, people would be losing their mind.
Yeah.
And that's, I guess, it's not valued or it's not seen as important because it's not relative to this country.
Whoever bought it afterwards, just looked at it as like, who are all these? This is graffiti.
Exactly.
And so they just painted it. It was sad.
Yes.
But Teatro Alameda was a big deal back then. I remember going to it when I was a little kid, running around, probably annoying everybody. Watching a movie, running up and down the aisles. the one of the stories again, Miss Quintero's uncle, Pete Moreno. He's older than I am, so he was around. In the 60s. He was a little older, so he was 10, 11 years old or whatever around that time. So he was around those musicians because obviously his dad, Pedro Moreno Sr., was a big name in the mariachi community. So they all kind of, rubbed elbows and influenced each other. And Pete told me an interesting story that when my dad and my uncles came to San Antonio, that they brought a bunch of repertoire from Mexico that they were doing in their groups in Mexico, specifically Monterrey. And they brought a bunch of repertoire with them, one of them being La Bikina.
Oh.
And all the mariachi musicians in San Antonio would all gather up at the end of the night, after they're working 2, 3 in the morning after they were done, and they'd all kind of learn songs off each other. And one of the big things is everybody wanted to learn La Bikina because those were like chords that nobody had ever done. That was a progression nobody had ever done. So my dad's group, Mariachi Chapultepec, eventually became very famous for doing their arrangement of La Bikina. But everyone was just all hyped up, really excited about learning that song.
Yes, I mean, I remember seeing it. It's, I don't know if you showed me that manuscript, but it was a manuscript, and it's the attention to detail, beautiful chords that was just written in there. It's not your average primera, segunda, and tercera. I think that's what I'm trying to get to.
Yeah. No,
it's very intricate, right?
It was very, very involved. After my grandmother died, my dad's mother, after she passed away, and I guess we should start by saying this before I continue on, because some people in our audience might not know this, but my dad and my uncles passed away. They lost their lives in a tragic fire in Chicago in 1970. So the Chapultepec ended in 1970, right when they were really becoming a big name and starting to be famous and doing nationwide tours and all that. They lost their lives in Chicago, so that's ended Mariachi Chapultepec.
Yeah.
But I don't know, about 9 years ago, when my grandmother passed away, my dad's mom, going through her stuff, there was a box of stuff that she says, I want Arturo, Arturo Jr. to have this box of stuff. And so when I was looking through it, it was obviously she wanted to get it to me because of music. But I looked through it, and this is the stuff I showed you. As I was thumbing through it, there was musical spirals, just all full of music theory.
Yeah.
Because they were all taking music theory classes, and all these progressions, a circle of fifths, and intervals, and progressions, and Roman numerals, and all the stuff that we study in theory, that a lot of people say, oh, that's not part of mariachi. Oh, that's not a mariachi.
Yeah.
Well, here was Mariachi Chapultepec, considered one of the top mariachis, and they were all in theory, all studying it. So that was mind-blowing to see those books. I still have them. Of course, and I also some of the repertoire that they'd written. And the thing that caught me more than anything is how great their manuscript was. I mean, everything was handwritten. Yeah. But it was beautifully written. You'd think it was
like what finale?
Finale.
Yeah. What? Yeah.
It was so cleanly written. That was awesome to see.
That's really cool. That's like really rich. And so, again, what Mr. Ortiz saying that he created Campanas being influenced by that. I think that's a great honor.
Yeah. There's this really cool story that my mom's told me, and a lot of people told me when I Chapultepec. So apparently, and I don't have the article. I need to find the article, but I don't have the article. But this is the story my mom and my family have told me. Apparently, there was somebody that wrote for the Express News back then, back in the 60s, that wrote an article basically talking about the mariachi scene in San Antonio. And I want to say the article was derogatory, or putting down mariachi in any way. But it definitely, kind of portrayed it as in like cantina music, or music that that wasn't serious music. Yeah. That it was that kind of music. And my dad was very insulted by that article. Yeah. And so he contacted that writer he contacted the author of the article in the Express News and said, I'm going to prove to you that you're wrong.
Yeah.
And I'm going to put together a concert, and I want you to come and I want you to write about it. And to his credit, the writer, he said, sure, I'll do that. So my dad put together a concert at Our Lady Lake in San Antonio. I want to find recordings. It was recorded. I probably should go over to Our Lady Lake and see if they have an archive recordings. But that concert he put together, and he put together a musical presentation. It was not a mariachi. It was a mariachi concert, yes, but it was not a, like mariachis playing at restaurants at Mario's or Mi Tierra where they're playing a lot of rancheras. They played a serious concert from beginning to end of a wide variety of music, and everybody was blown away.
Wow.
They'd never seen a mariachi be that musical. And this specific writer, the next day, he ate every single word he wrote the first time. He could not believe, he was blown away by the level of musicianship and artistry that was presented by Mariachi Chapultepec and Our Lady Lake. And he ate every word. And so that was a big accomplishment.
Wow.
Mariachi Chapultepec was a mariachi, but they also wanted to be known as great musicians.
Yeah.
And so that was a really neat story.
Wow, that's awesome. It's crazy to see that the narrative doesn't change, right? We talked about in this episode. We also talked about that UIL, in order for mariachi education to be recognized by UIL, it had to go through loops, and it had to go through the loops and the holes of going through TAME, through MASBA to get the numbers and to be recognized. Because in the education world, it's some people still see it. Oh, it's just cantina music. It's just that. It's so much rich culture. It has so much to offer. I've seen a lot of students, at the collegiate level, they're very successful musicians, because they get to experience music through mariachi. And yes, again, some songs are primeras, segundas, and terceras, but mariachi can be so versatile, can be so, you can do so much with it.
Exactly.
And so it's a continuing narrative that it has to be constantly fought for, But that's awesome. So that was really cool. We had a great talk with Mr. Juan Ortiz, and to see those influences that he had.
Yeah, I was excited. I was excited not only about the education stuff that he talked about, but also how I didn't not know about the whole thing about how my dad's group influenced him to get started. So all that was great to hear and great to know. So yeah, I'm excited. Excited. It was a great show and great first guest.
Yes, first episode down. Great talks. I hope that everybody enjoyed it as much as we did. Yeah. And we'll be seeing y'all next week. Next week we have who, Mr. Lopez?
I think we have Mr. Alex Ramirez next week. So we're going from San Antonio to Austin.
So join us on our little trip to Austin, and we will see you next time.
All right.